Welcome to Frog Talk, an Auction Frogs podcast series all about events and fundraising in a post-2020 world. For more information on Auction Frogs and the services we offer, visit auctionfrogs.org today.
Hi, this is Corey Michaels, and this is Frog Talk, your leap into fundraising. And today, along with Melanie, our operations and office manager, and Kayla, what all titles do you want to have now, Kayla?
My official title is production and marketing manager.
In my 35 years of having hosted galas and events, some of the biggest issues that I've seen is check-in, check-out. You bottleneck at the check-in. People are already getting a little irritated because it takes them an hour just to get into the room. Leaving, trying to go, it was great, I'm ready to go home, but yet you're stuck in a line. So what is the best practices for easy check-in, check-out?
I think the biggest thing is to remember that whatever software solution you pick has to be capable of handling whatever flow you need, whatever you're looking for. There are a lot of opportunities out there for auction softwares that don't actually have tools for check-in and check-out. So that's something just to keep in mind when you're shopping for one. But I would definitely say it all comes down to people. The number of people that you need, doing the actual work of checking people in, as well as the type of people that you need.
Right.
Sometimes we look at volunteers and say, I'm so grateful you're here to help, but we put them in the wrong position. For example, maybe you have someone who works for your organization that is new and has met a lot of names, but hasn't put a lot of faces to those names. Sometimes they're not the right people for check-in because they want to talk to everybody and slow things down while they're there. So again, the right butt in the seats, as we say, right? Mm-hmm. Your bookkeeper, for example, is going to be very dedicated to making sure everything is perfect during check-in and that everything goes as smoothly as possible. Maybe they need to be part of the cleanup crew, not the check-in crew. So there's a lot of different ways you decipher skill set. They need to be comfortable on a computer. They need to have good 10 key skills, and they need to be able to follow very simple instructions. I also think that the quantity of those people that you find are also really important. We have a couple of clients who utilize volunteer services for check-in volunteers. Maybe they're sorority groups, college kids who need volunteer hours, National Junior Honor Society. The list goes on and on. Those kids are great at check-in because you give them their instructions, they follow the modal and all the things that they do, and they do exactly what you want them to do and how to do it, and they're technically savvy enough to get the job done efficiently. So never be afraid to ask someone under the age of 20 to help with check-in because they are definitely going to be faster at it than even I am a lot of the time. So that's one of the things I always look at too, is the type of volunteer you need, what their skill set needs to be, but then the quantity. The rule of thumb that we use is, 50 guests per check-in station. For an in-person event, I always say think more like 30 because it's just going to make it faster. Yeah. The more people you have, the faster it will go.
I think layout too of your check-in tables, you want to make sure that it's spacious enough for your guests and your check-in volunteers to fit in that space. If you can space them out a little bit so that they're not all yelling over each other, that's very helpful. I can't tell you how many times I've lost my voice, which is fine, small price to pay, but it makes it easier for hearing and clarity. And you also want to make sure that it's, at least in my opinion, somewhat of a barrier to entry. Otherwise, people will just walk right past you, and then you'll find, hey, I already went in, but I don't have my paddle. And, well, you skipped the line, and it's not like we can't take care of them. But if it's a little bit in the way of getting in and they have to pass by to get into the room, it helps just with clarity and making sure that there's enough space. You don't want, I was at an event the other day where the event line for check-in had to go out the door and around the building. It was a little hard to get everybody in. We were yelling and waving our hands to flag people down that they were next because the visibility wasn't great. So obviously, you have to work within the space that your venue provides. It has, but be intentional with how you set up your check-in and checkout tables, because it's going to help. It's not like make or break, but it's definitely going to help.
Well, and it really helps on the way out, even more than the way in, because yes, you want everyone to be able to get in there, get to visiting, talking about your nonprofit, and engaging with people that are like-minded in your donor base. But you also want them to have a great experience and leave easily.
Get out.
Because I know for me, having been, just a part of galas, is I want to go. Whatever I got in the silent auction, the live auction, whatever the case may be, I want to get it and I want to go home because I've had a great time, but it's over. So that's another big process, is the way home.
I think checkout doesn't have to be what checkout used to be, I guess is how I'll say it. There's so many better ways to do it than we used to have. I've been doing events for upwards of 15 years. And before I discovered Auction Frogs, I didn't realize you didn't have to run credit cards at the end of the night. Right. And there's so many solutions that offer that now, which is really great. But it's really handy from an item pickup situation to know that all you really have to do to leave is go get the stuff you won. Yeah. And even if you're using paper bid sheets, that's not hard for people to figure out.
Right.
A lot of people put way more work into actually getting items picked up than they actually even need to. For the most part, when the evening ends, if you are just putting people on the honor system to pick up their stuff, station some volunteers around the room, have them show you their phone, or bring them, kind of help say, what's your bid number? Let me help you collect your stuff. There's no reason why you can't have someone to help guide them through that so they don't take the wrong items.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be this, well, first you come out front and you get your receipt, and then you take your receipt to this volunteer and they go pick up all your stuff while you wait for them, and then they're going to help you to your car. Like, it doesn't need to be that orchestrated. A lot of people do this so often, they know exactly what they need to do. So don't underestimate your audience when it comes to the item pickup part of checkout. The other thing is that when it comes to checking people out, if you need to run a payment that night as they're walking out the door because they're paying by check or something, make sure your volunteers are ready and trained to help people check out, because that could happen even during dinner. A lot of times people will need to leave early, or they have an emergency at home they have to run and they have to go quickly. There's just things that happen. So making sure your volunteers know and understand what a person would need to do to check out and get settled up for the night is important. Right. Because when somebody's like, hey, my kid just called me, they're throwing up, I've got to go home. Don't worry, we have your card on file. We'll reach out to you with your gift certificates later. Have a nice night. That is the best thing for that person to hear in that moment. And for in a lot of cases, that's exactly how it should work.
And the positioning of your checkout station plays into that too. I think a lot of people want to move checkout into the room. But then if people have to leave early or choose to leave early for whatever reason, it's difficult because we're whispering, we're trying not to interrupt the main program. And also people naturally go back to check in for checkout too. So just keep it where it was. Usually that's outside of the room and it's where people will naturally go. I do think people forget to educate their guests and their volunteers on what checkout looks like. So make sure you educate your guests, even before the event. When you get there, you don't have to check out if you put a card on file. That's incentive to put a card on file, and it's educating them. Putting something on the table that says, when you'd like to check out, head back to the check-in table, or take your items off the table, because it turns into a crazy madhouse at pretty much every event I've been, because people forget that that's like, you got to tell them what to do, because people don't know what to do. And so people are running around, what do I do? Where do I get my items? Am I supposed to take it? Are you sure? Who do I ask? And it's a little bit of a madhouse, and the madhouse starts before the event is actually over usually. Yes.
Yeah. And I think your MC for the evening can really facilitate that throughout the night, right? We've done, we did a little episode on what a good MC should do. This is one of those things. They absolutely should be aware that throughout the night, from the very beginning to the very end, if you put a card on file, you don't need to check out. If you need to leave early, we understand. Go ahead and collect your items. Be sure to take them with you. We don't want to have to try to track you down later. All of those things are really great ways for an MC can help communicate that. I've seen people put the actual flow for the entire evening, including check-in and check-out procedures, in their program on the very first page.
Yes.
There's a lot of different ways you can communicate that with your audience. Because they bought tickets through your auction site, hopefully, they also have another place before they even get to the event for that information.
Yeah.
And I would add, because I know that there are some people who have had bad experiences with the honor system. I've heard that from clients before. They've been burned. They've had items disappear. I had that happen once with a Yeti cooler, of all things. Not small.
How did they just walk out with that thing?
For that, I think, and Melanie mentioned this, having some volunteers around that table to help regulate it a little bit. If you don't have bid sheets, you can always go through or have a volunteer go through with a sticky note and put the winning bid number on each item. There are ways to regulate it so that you don't get burned without having to go full-blown checkout, like Melanie was mentioning, because that's a huge time suck and really, really tough, because people do, when they want to leave, they want to leave. They're patient at check-in for the most part, but not so much at checkout. So definitely, if you're working with Auction Frogs, talk to your auction engineer about different suggestions that they may have, because we can help guide you and relieve some of the concerns about the honor system. Most people are good people. The Yeti cooler that walked off, it found the right home eventually. They didn't mean to, but you never know. So you can put things in place without having to go full blown checkout.
All right, Kayla. So we had talked earlier about pre-registration.
Yeah, pre-registration is magical. We offer that at Auction Frogs. I think there's probably other services that do too, but at Auction Frogs, the way that works is you send out a pre-registration email. We recommend, at least a week before your event, but sometimes the more you can send it out, the better. Repetition is key when it comes to getting people to follow instructions sometimes. But basically what they do is they click the link, log in. It'll ask them to fill out any of the information that they hadn't filled out when they purchased their ticket. That's really important when you're using mobile bidding, because they have to have a mobile number on file. But it's also great for getting address, email, and things like that to have on file for different purposes.
Right.
And then it actually gives them the opportunity to save their card ahead of time. So that saves you a whole step at check-in, which is sliding the card. And having done it, I can tell you the time difference between somebody who pre-registered and somebody who didn't is significant. It's down to seconds at check-in, right? And just really moving people along. And it makes a difference if they have that information ahead of time. So pre-registration is awesome. There's ways through our system to send that email out as many times as you'd like. And I also think, sending it out in as many ways as you can through social media, through text messaging feature that we have in our system, things like that, to really get in front of people and let them know that this is going to help them. It's going to help everyone, and it's going to make things so easy and so streamlined. So that's a great way to go faster through check-in, is to utilize the pre-registration feature.
And if there's any way that we can help, you've got all of our information right here in the description. Very excited to be able to help you in your journey.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Frog Talk, an Auction Frogs podcast series all about events and fundraising in a post-2020 world. For more information on Auction Frogs and the services we offer, visit auctionfrogs.org today.